the first phase of Indian independence, 1885 to 1915. Events like the passage of the Vernacular Press Act in 1878 and the Ilbert Bill of 1882, as well as the reduction of the age limit for the civil service exams in 1876, resulted in the wave of opposition from the middle class Indians. Consequently, some of them came together and formed a number of small political parties that came out in the streets for protest and rallies. The British foresaw the situation of resulting in another rebellion on the pattern of the War of Independence of 1857. To avoid such a situation, the British decided to provide an outlet to the local people where they could discuss their political problems. In order to achieve this goal, Alan Octavian Hume, a retired British civil servant, had a series of meetings with Lord Dufferin, the Viceroy. He also visited England and met people like John Bright, Sir James Carew, Lord Ripon, and some members of the British Parliament. Hume also had a support on a large number of Englishmen in India, including Sir William Wedderburn, George Yule, and Charles Bradlaugh. His return from Britain, Hume consulted the local Indian leaders and started working towards the establishment of an Indian political organization. He invited the convention of the Indian National Union, an organization he had already formed in 1884, to Bombay in December 1885. 72 delegates, most of whom were lawyers, educationalists, and journalists, attended the convention in which the Indian National Congress was established. This first session of Congress was presided over by Bhunesh Chandra Banerjee, and he was also elected as the first president of the organization to begin with. Congress acted as the King's Party. Its early aims to objectives were to seek cooperation of all Indians in its efforts, eradicate the concept of race, creed, and provincial prejudices, and try to form national unity, discuss and solve the social problems of the country. The request of the government gave more share to the locals in administrative affairs. As time went by, the Congress changed its stance and apparently became the biggest opposition to the British government. Muslims primarily opposed to the creation of Congress and refused to participate in the activities. Out of the 72 delegates who attended the opening session of the Congress, only 2 were Muslims. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, who was invited to attend the Bombay session, refused to offer. He also urged the Muslims to abstain from the Congress activities and predicted that the party would eventually become a Hindu party and would only look after the interest of the Hindus. Foundation of Indian National Congress, the myth and reality. Indian National Congress was founded in December 1885. However, a myth surrounded around with foundation. The myth is that Indian National Congress was started by A.O. Hume and other under the official direction, guidance, and advice of Lord Dufferin and the Viceroy to provide a safe, mild, peaceful, and constitutional outlet or safety valve for the rising discontent among the masses, which was inevitably leading towards a popular and violent revolution. Lala Lajpat Rai used the safety valve theory to attack the moderates in the Congress. He argued that the Congress steered more in with the objective of saving the British Empire from danger than with that of winning political liberty for India. The interests of the British Empire were primary and those of India only secondary. Later, R.P. Dutt's India's Today made the myth of the safety valve to staple of left-wing opinion. According to him, the Congress fought and collaborated with imperialism. It led the mass movements, and when the masses moved towards the revolutionary path, it betrayed the movement to imperialism. Thus, quality of the Congress leadership from Gokhale to Gandhi said that, in fact, reflected the twofold and vacillating character of the Indian bourgeoisie, itself at once in conflict with the British bourgeoisie and desiring to advance many ends in destroying its privilege along with those of imperialists to Congress had thus become an organ of opposition to real revolution, that is, a violent revolution. The culmination of this dual role was its final capitulation with the Mountbatten Settlement, 1939. M.S. Golwalkar, the RSS chief, had also found the safety valve theory handy in attacking the Congress for its secularism and therefore anti-nationalism. In the pamphlet, Golwalkar campaigned that Hindu national consciousness had been destroyed by those claiming to be nationalists. The liberal C.F. Andrews and Girija Mukherjee fully accepted the safety valve theory in their work. The rise and growth of the Congress in India, they were happy with it because it had helped to avoiding useless bloodshed. On the ground reality, the foundation of the Indian National Congress in 1885 was not a sudden event or a historical accident. It was a culmination of a process of political awakening that had its beginning in the 1860s and 1870s and took a major leap forward in the late 1870s and early 1890s. The new political thrust in the year between 1875 and 1885 was the creation of the younger and more radical nationalist intellectuals who are entered political during this period. They established new associations, having found that older associations were too narrowly conceived in terms of their programs and political activity as well as social basis. And so, the younger nationalists of Bengal, led by S.N. Benjari and A.M. Bose, found the Indian Association in 1876. Younger men of Madras, M. Veeraraghavachari, G. Subramaniam Iyer, P. Anand Charlu, and others formed a Madras Mahajan Sabha in 1884. In Bombay, K.D. Thilang and Firoz Shah Mehta formed the Bombay Presidency Association in 1885. A sign of new political life in the country was the coming into existence during these years of nearly all the major nationalist newspapers which were dominant in Indian science till 1918, the Hindu Tribune, Bangalore, Maharashtra and Kesari. By 1885, the formation of All India political organization had become the objective necessity, and the necessity was being reorganized by nationalists all over the country. It acquired a greater sense of urgency, especially from 1883, and there was intense political activity. The Indian Mirror of Calcutta was carrying on a continuous campaign on the question. The Indian Association had already in December 1883 organized an All India National Conference and given a call for another one in December 1885. The bulbing 10 years. Meanwhile, the Indian had gained experience as well as confidence from the large number of agitations that had organized in the preceding 10 years. A massive campaign had been organizing during 1877-1888 around the landmark for the Indianization of government services. The Indians had opposed the Afghan adventure of Lord Lytton and then compelled the British government to contribute towards the cost of Second Afghan War. The Indian press had waged a major campaign against the effort to the government to control it through the Vernacular Press Act. The Indian had also opposed to the effort to disarm Then, through the Arms Act in 1881-82, they had organized a protest against the plantation labor and the Inland Immigration Act, which condemned plantation laborers to serfdom. A major agitation was organized during 1883 in favor of the Ilbert Bill, which would enable to Indian magistrate to try Europeans. The Indians had been quick to draw a political lesson. Their efforts had failed because they had not been coordinated of all India basis. On the other hand, the Europeans had acted in a concerned manner. Again, in July 1883, a massive all India effort was made to raise a national fund which would be a promote political agitation in India as well as in England. In this became clear that the foundation of the Congress was a natural culmination of the political